So before we get started, you guys are going to need to go down into the description and download a certain starting file. Essentially, I've created a folder with the starting files, the starting Maya, this scene right over here. So once you get here, you should have these references right over here. There's nothing special about them. It's just those images I have in the folder, all set up to a Lambert. So as you can see here, I've set it to file. So if you guys don't know how to set up references, what you do is you go to create, you right click create materials, and you go to Lambert. And after you do that, you click on this checker icon right over here. You select file, then you click on this icon, and then you select the image you want. But since I've already set that up for you guys, you don't need that. So yeah, we're just going to be working off of this. So let's get started with the first thing we're going to make, and that is the handle. Let's start by first tapping this face right over here, then clicking Control, Shift, and I, and then clicking Delete. So I essentially just made a plane. Instead of spawning in a plane and rotating it, I just make a cube tap and Control Shift I. Actually, you know what? We're not going to be doing that. Okay, we're going to start out with a cylinder. Let me do something first. Select all of these reference files right over here. They should already be in the layer, actually. You can tap the third box, and once it is on R, these are not selectable. So I thought it would be easier, but in reality, this is easier. I've already named all of these. So right now we only need the left one. So select top, shift click back, and then click Control H, and that will hide all of those reference planes. First, let's start out with this cylinder over here, and I'll explain why later. So we're going to start out with 32 segments. Scale it down to, I think this is good enough. Yep, right over here. This should be good enough. Let me actually make it go a bit more to the right, a bit more up, and then scale it up now. Maybe a bit more down. Yeah, this looks good enough. So now let's take the vertices and start aligning this a bit better. Just keep tapping all of these and aligning them. So here I just want to make the curve kind of follow along. I'm not really too worried about that area. Now this follows along very nicely. We're just going to take this guy and follow this essentially. Right now this topology doesn't matter, so keep following this outline. We're going to need some extra segments, so I'm just going to, let's say, create 4 more segments. And hopefully that is enough. That is not good enough. Why? Because I need to delete these. Let me select this, Control Shift I, same thing I did with the cube at the start that we didn't need. And do this now because I was only doing it on one surface, and then the other one didn't have these segments. So like that, take the other one. And with time, if you're a beginner and if you've just started modeling, this is good practice. With time, the more models you make, the more topology, you'll see topology more vividly. That's how I'm going to put it right now. So right now, if you don't really follow along with what I'm doing right now, which as a beginner is understandable, it's okay. The more models you make, the more you're going to see the topology and understand why and what we're doing here and which shapes and how we're going to achieve them. So that said, let us keep aligning these. And we are also partially working in sub D. So it's not fully that ZBrush polish into the other one, as some of you may know that work style. It's not really like that. It's a bit different. So we're sort of working with sub D. So segments are set up to low poly. You guys will see over time. Just follow along right now and you can incorporate the techniques I use in this tutorial in your own projects. So there we go, like that. So now what, okay, wait, let's fix this a bit more. It doesn't seem to be perfect enough. Make sure the circles are right. And we're not gonna sub D in Maya. We're gonna actually go into ZBrush and do a certain workflow there. We have it done like this. So what I'm going to do now is go into my perspective mode. Let's do this first. Let's take it out of X-ray. I click the same keybinds, Control Alt and X. Let me take this out. Tap this vertice, click Control 4, Alt E, which copies the faces I have selected. Place them on the other side. Then I have this pie menu set up. I might make a video on how to set up a pie. And this is essentially just this, but custom setup. So what I have here is on the pie menu, what I have is I have assigned the reverse thing. So just select these faces over here, which are not right. Go to mesh display and yeah, click reverse right over here. And you should have this. Now, Alt H isolates it, Control Shift H takes it back to, well, what was hidden and what was not. It was like one undo. And if I click Control Alt and H, it'll unhide everything. As you can see, it unhid these references, which I don't need right now. So since we reversed that, combine it, click 1, select all the vertices, Control C. Just for measures, we can click clean up and see if any results come up. No, it's all clean. So now what I'm going to do is go to the, literally any view, but this is usually top view. And okay, yeah, we're going to click this magnet right over here and bring it right to the middle. Just like that. And okay, so I have a reference on the left, which you guys will not have. So you guys will kind of have to follow by eye, which is also pretty good practice. So what I'm first, let's create a cube and then go into the, let's first of all unhide everything. And we're only going to need the top view right now. Technically, we can even have the back view. Yeah, let's use the front view actually. So I'm going to select all of these, Control H, and we're going to, this is just for a scale reference at the moment. So these don't have this on. So if you don't have textures showing, by the way, tick this on right here next to this box. So this box with the white outlines, you want to tick this texture thing. So, and you have to do it for every single viewport if you want the textures to show. So right now, as you guys can see, yeah, actually, we don't need to do this because we have the front reference here. I was thinking we would, we're going to do it differently, but never mind. Just select this, and since we placed it in the middle, scale it on, oh, I think this is the Z-axis, right? Oh, it's the X, yeah, the X-axis, okay. So start scaling it until it looks sort of right. You can click Control X as well. The reference might not be perfectly aligned, but neither does this have to be perfect. So we can set it up like that. Now, Control Alt and H, which unhides everything. Go into here, go into left view, and now we're going to Boolean these shapes in. We're going to do that by creating another cylinder, snapping it over here, and increasing it until we get the right one. So if you scale it up high enough, you can sort of go by eye and center it and keep scaling from there. Okay, that looks about right. Now let's go over, let's go over to our perspective mode and add, let's say 4 segments. Yeah, 5 will be a bit too much. Let's add 4 segments to this. And now what we're going to do is select both of these, click A, which will select the edge loop, go to the side. Actually, first, let's do something else. Let's set it up by its end. So select these two, go into here, go into left view, hold W, click left click, axes, normal, and click Control 1. So essentially you would select those, again, let me do this again for some of you that might not be able to follow. I selected these 2 edges. I clicked A, I selected the edge loop, then I clicked Control 1 to convert them into vertices because normal only works with vertices. Then I went into left view, and usually this one, yep, this one is going to move it up. So since these are the 2 middle ones, these are the ones that are going to align with the reference. Go to perspective. Now select these 2, do the same thing, right? This should already be normal. And take these out about like this, just like that. To be honest, we are going to be, yeah, we're going to be working simultaneously in Zbrush and Maya, kind of exporting and importing. So yeah, let's export this into Zbrush. So I've opened Zbrush over here. I have it set up a bit differently with the colors and highlights. You guys can play around with those and preferences. You can keep the default ones as well. But again, right now, you are going to want to select a cylinder. You're going to want to drag it onto the screen, click Edit, click on the material right over here, and select Basic Material. Now you're going to want to click Make Polymesh 3D, and now we're going to head back to Maya. So now that we're back here, we are going to do something interesting. First, I'm going to select this and I'm going to make an edge right over here and put this up like a supporting edge, something of that sort. Select this object. I've essentially on File just Control Shift clicked Import and Export, which is somewhere here. It's I think, yeah, Export Selection and Import. and it just goes into this. Yeah, so select this object, click export, or go from there, export selection. And we're going to actually go into the file directory really quick. So now that I'm in the file directory, I'm going to create actually a new folder. This is the way I organize files. You guys can do this as well. So what I do is I create a new folder and I call it exports. And this is where I export and import everything. So just one folder for organization's sake. I am going to create a new folder here and I'm going to call it HP base, high poly base. I'm going to open this and I'm going to export this file and call it AO1. Then I'm going to click on this guy and I'm going to export him as AO2. And I'm going to click this guy and I'm going to export him and call him AO3. Now, I just remembered something. We're going to have to actually do this inside of here. Select this main object and then select this one over here and click new Boolean operation and do this. And now let's clean up these vertices over here. To do it on both sides, I'm just going to click Object X and go like this. Instead of then making everything here, deleting that and copying this face, I'm just going to do it simultaneously, essentially. You connect that to over there. Yep, like that. Then we're going to do this and unhide everything, go into left view. Right, I didn't take this in count. So what we're going to do now is delete everything. Click this edge right over here. Click S, click Control 4, which will turn it into polygons, which will turn it into faces, I mean, and pop it to over here. Now select everything, select this outer edge, and since it'll break the edge loop since it's not connected there. Select everything here, click Control 1, the W left click, set it to world, Z, and align it to this so it's planar. And also let's connect these verts over here. Select this edge S, make segments, select these two, Control 1, make it into normal. Bring it over to there. Select this. Export AO1. Export AO2. And go back into Zbrush, click multi-append, and select these. I wonder, yeah, can you delete in here? Yeah, you can delete, so we didn't need AO3. So select both of these, import, then you still have the cylinder selected, so delete it. And here we go, we have these two. So how are we going to model this? So to select an object without going to the subtool, so if you click Shift F, you're going to see the poly groups. Keep this all in mind if you're a beginner. Some of you may already know what this is. So if you alt click an object, it essentially switches your selection to it. So with this selected first, I'm going to click Control C, which is a keybind for crease. And this doesn't seem to work as well as I want it to, so I'm not going to crease it. So I also set up A1 to smooth it. So I essentially apply the dynamic shift and lock the selection right over here, and Control Shift. Actually, first let me click X to activate X symmetry. Do this. Click Control C to crease it. Alt 1 to do that, and let's just change this to 4. If your computer is not super powerful, I recommend switching it to like 2 or keep it at 1 and only at the end increase it, because you're going to have it smooth once you dynamesh everything. Then you want to click this icon right over here, start. This organizes it, so anything from, so let's say I have another object up here that intersects, and let's say I have this, so Control C, this automatic. It's like crease is like smoothing group creasing, essentially, sub D smooth group creasing. So if you do a selection, hold space, you can move your selection plane. So then I have old Boolean key binded to alt free. So we have this right over here, this Boolean. And essentially, if let's say I had another object in here, like a small cylinder, technically this would cut it. But if I had it above, it's not going to cut it. So disorganize it. Let me just make this clear because this can be a bit annoying. So let's say I can make this like this, right? So right now it's gone, right? Why? Because this object is supposed to cut this and this, right? As you can see, this is inside, it's going to cut it. Yeah, granted, I could put it below over here, and then it's not going to cut it because it's not a part of the operation. But sometimes you need to organize it differently. So what I do is I place it above this. As you can see, this should technically cut it, but it's not because the operation starts from here. And this is very important because later on, that's how you're going to export all the needed objects. So yeah, this exported. Let's head over back to Maya and continue working on the handle. So now that we're back in Maya, what I'm going to do is select this face right over here. Let me do something. Let me make this. Yeah, this is left. So we're going to click space and then click here and then click here if we want to go into perspective. Then I'm going to tap to at least over here. And then let's just manually go ahead and select this because why not? Yeah, we could have done it with constraints and doing it right, but there's no harm in doing it this way either. You selected everything. Alt E, segment. Make this world again. Select all of these vertices. Alt C to slide it along the edges, edge constraint. And there we go. Go into here and delete all of this. Then Shift X. Yep, Shift X, which will extrude it. And just to have it extruded right now over here. So now what we're going to do is go into this view. And extrude it until here. This is a good distance. I think this would be, yeah, this is okay. This is good. Now what I'm thinking of doing is making this more simple is by deleting everything here and only working with this. So how we're going to do this is by essentially just following the silhouette. So let's do this. It's okay for now. We can always fix that. So right now we're just going to be following the silhouette. What I want to do here though is probably should have done it earlier. Let's disable symmetry. Delete this. Extrude this out. Select these S, delete. Control Alt S to constrain it like this. And for now, we're just going to connect it there. And what I'm going to be doing, if you have your cameras in the way, click show and click camera, not lights, camera. And now we're just going to be adding segments and following the silhouette. Again, I'm not sure if I'm using the correct amount of segments, even though I've already made this, but I'm just going to essentially show you guys how to make it over again. Maybe the problems, or not the problems, just the obstacles that you might run into that you're going to want to fix over time. Maybe some of these edges we might delete, but right now you just want to start somewhere. The hardest part, some people say, is starting. In my opinion, it's just the starting. It's how you think about it. If you just start and keep going from there, your mind's going to figure out how to do things. And I'm creating equal amount of segments here because, I mean, technically not 100% needed, but it is convenient. And I'm trying to make these equal distance, even though I'm still going to be fixing that after, just to make it a bit easier to work with after I finish this silhouette. So when this stuff happens, you just want to extrude this out. Click delete. If you click Alt X, it deletes the vertices as well. Let's do that. This is going to continue into here. Like this. So stuff like this. Now I'm just going to go and set this up. So set this up like this. Create a couple of segments here and then start aligning this. Again, it doesn't need to be super perfect, just close enough. Because we're going to be doing something after, which is going to fix the curve. I'm even thinking of deleting some segments, but again, I'm using what I have right now, and I'm not gonna do anything bad. Again, this is sort of dirty, but in reality, every model starts out like this with a dirty style, and then you clean everything up after. You can't really start out super clean. That's for like that's sub-D modeling back in the day. You had to start clean if you wanted to continue clean, but you don't really need to do that right now. I'm just vaguely setting this up, seeing what I need and what I do not need. Click on ZHT Poly Tools, average line. Select this and select this. Click average line. Make sure the settings are the same. Click V for the cut tool. And follow this outline. And you want to do this for every single one of them. Again, roughly just making all of this and kind of going on from there. This is actually a pretty good point to control save. You can incrementally save, but what I usually do is I click control save. I go back to the file directory where I have this file saved. So yeah, right here you can see, because maybe we might go back. You never know when you make some kind of error and you don't want only one file. So essentially I saved, or you can see 219 and 219, and I just select this file over here, control copy, go into my saves, paste it over here, and then let's call it, for example, Karambit. I'm gonna put toot because it's a tutorial. You could just call it Karambit toot base 01 because we're working on the base, and then I just keep continuing and 02 0 free until I maybe finish it faster or something. But make saving a good habit.